Well, thank you all for joining the Digital Experience Platforms and Technologies group here in Boston. Real quick, my name is Dave Losey. I'm the organizer for this group. I work for Slom Consulting as a solution principal. Excuse me. I'm a consultant, developer, architect, kind of a guy with many hats in the application development, web application space. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Office 365 user group here in town. And part of my goal and my wish of starting up this group was to kind of see the same success we've had with that user group in this space. Not seeing a lot of groups in the Boston space with these specific topics, so trying to expand that. Of course, we started this year, and then COVID happened. So it's been a very rough year to start a user group. So I appreciate you all coming out. Please spread the word and let others know. Join our meetup and you'll get information about upcoming events and all that stuff and help just spread the love. Without further ado, let's dive into tonight's topic. We have Eric Fullerton on board to talk about digital innovation in the COVID-19 world. I could probably learn something for our user group here as well.
All right, sounds good. So, yeah, I'm gonna go. I have some slides here that I can talk through and work through. At the same time, though, I think the whole point of user groups is, conversation. So, anytime if folks want to interject, they want to ask questions, we can certainly do Q&A and things at the end. But anytime we have an opportunity and have smaller groups to have conversation, that usually ends up being the best part of a presentation and or a conversation. So please feel free to jump in and to interrupt, to ask questions, to ask clarifications. I'm gonna start kind of by talking about a couple larger scale trends that we've been seeing. Talk through what we think. So for those of you who maybe are not aware of Acquia, I would hope that many at least are tangentially aware. So we have about 4,000 customers in the space around, our origins were in building services and support around Drupal, started around 2007, then moved into hosting of websites and then started putting web personalization technologies on top of that. And we've had a pretty aggressive approach over the past couple of years where we've really started to fully move into, embrace, and focus on the digital experience space. So one of the things that's really interesting for us is we have customers who are very focused on content creation. We have customers who are very focused on building multiple different sites at scale. We have customers who are thinking about data and trying to understand all of their prospects better. We have a very robust platform where we can talk through a lot of these different use cases. And so I'll talk through some trends and then I'll go in and actually just give a bunch of examples that I thought were pretty interesting and pretty cool about how orgs are using technology to respond effectively to the world we're dealing with right now. So I'm just going to kind of get started, and I'll try to be somewhat quick through these trends because I think I would hope that many of us are keeping our ears to the ground and starting to think about some of these things, the impact that they're having. But really, one of the things we're seeing specifically is, and it's all driven really by customers, is we're always trying to engage and drive engagement across lots of different channels. But we're moving in. We've seen this progression of IoT for, really, I can't even put an exact number on it, but an explosion probably in the past 3 to 5 years. And we're moving beyond these kind of traditional experiences where we're thinking, all right, so it's about engaging on the web, engaging on email, engaging on social. And then we're kind of now starting to think about, okay, we have a 3 to 5 year plan for moving to be a more digitally agile, digitally transformed organization. And we're starting to think about things like screens and gestures and wearables and voice and chatbots. And there's this whole new world of really possibilities. And we're seeing a lot of traditional businesses start to build out and try to do innovation around digital first services. They're trying to really start to focus on that subscription model. But it's pretty difficult to actually do this in real time. With each new different channel and touch point, it tends to create this new silo of all these different capabilities. So in order to engage on channel X, you have to have tool X, and then you do that with that specific tool. But when you start to actually look at all the different ways you're engaging and communicating, it becomes kind of difficult. So, and just if we look back the past 3 years, web and email and social, that was hard enough. I mean, that was not an easy thing for us to really optimize in general. And now it's, what do you do with voice? It's where are the wearables? Where are those next places? And these are all these new and specific challenges that we're trying to think through right now. And then I think where everyone is super focused on data, I hear content is king or data is king. That they can have those arguments. It doesn't really matter to me, because one of the primary things we're hearing about is it's data. It's where everyone is collecting data, and we have all these different tools to collect tons of different data and information. Usually we have tools to collect data based on a specific channel of engagement. And I think it's pretty safe to say we're collecting more data on our customers than we've ever had, and our prospects than we've ever had, but we've kind of become a little bit data blind. It's like we've lost a little bit of that intimacy to really understand what their intent is. And that hasn't happened just across one different channel. It's really when you start to look at all the different channels, and we really start to lose sight of that. There's data that teams just don't really seem to trust and feel confident to build campaigns on. And the last piece is around risk and governance and scale, and these requirements to be everywhere and to have to, we're always trying to innovate across different brands and regions, and it can be challenging when we're trying to move really quickly to design all these initiatives from the ground up and think about how we can maintain that governance, the security, the compliance, and the performance. Sometimes they can be a fast follow, and this new, really exciting digital initiative never really gets off the ground. But I think there's a really good opportunity here in that consumers have clear preferences for brands they trust, ones that will put data protection and privacy at the heart of their brand promise. But at the same time, one lawsuit, one security breach, even a DDoS attack, customers are very finicky today. Consumers are very finicky, and they're more likely to turn away from brands after just single bad experiences. And all these problems are real and growing, and these trends are happening in the marketplace. But we look back, and for those of you who aren't following some of the content that's on McKinsey, I would strongly recommend it. They have some really great material that they've been posting around the impacts and a lot of business impacts for chief digital officers and CIOs, and they have some really amazing content. So I would just keep an eye out for some of the things that they're producing. But we look back pre-2020, how ready are you to be a digital transformation organization? And it was about 8% people of brands said they could confidently say that. And then all those things that we were talking about earlier just got way harder based on a pandemic that fundamentally changed the way we're interacting and communicating. Even, we can talk about virtual events to last time anyone who's on the line went into the office. But for brands, it's really changes overnight the way they're able to try to engage with their different customers and consumers. And we weren't ready. And I don't think that was a surprise to most people, but organizations are certainly understanding that this is a time to really start investing in digital. And we've seen, about 75% or so are going to be accelerating their transformation initiatives. But the problem is the trends we talked about earlier, they create these silos in your organization. They're silos of content, silos of data, silos in your organization. This is the stuff that's going to block you from moving forward. So I want to talk about the problem just a little bit, because it's something that I've listened to Dries talk about for years, and it's something that seems to be only additive based on all the new things we do. So every time we digitally, we're all trying to quote unquote digitally transform, and to do so, we're investing in technology, we're investing in strategy, invest in teams. But every time you invest in technology, you either buy technology or you build it yourself. And there are good reasons to do both of these things, but in many instances, they solve the immediate problem that it's designed for or that it's bought for, but they can present these new challenges as well. So being able to, so a lot of times you'll see content that's locked down into a certain application. You have content in this CMS versus that CMS versus all in your email server, other places you're communicating on other different channels, and it's only accessible to certain teams. So then there's like lots of content recreation and duplication of all this different effort. And then the data is siloed in different systems too. So the information, it's not pervasive, it's not integrated, it's not even viewable. I can tell you, we can all highlight the examples of having to send a specific email to have someone pull a report, and that person actually doesn't have full access. They're going back to their original team to pull that report. And at the end of the day, you look at it and you're not really sure to feel confident that that's that holistic understanding of customer. And then with each new system, each new time we buy and build, being able to have and being required to essentially enforce the global governance around the security, compliance, and performance results in these rogue acts of marketing and IT. And I have some experience with this in my past, working in a global marketing organization that was highly distributed, and we would have things that we were rolling out through our centralized team, our center of excellence. But if we had a piece of content that was coming in a month and they needed something to roll out for an event next week, these teams would do their own thing. And they felt like they had to do that in order to get to market and to meet their requirements. But the problem is each time we buy and each time we build, we're really only making that silos problem only a little bit even more complex every single time, which is why things seemingly are getting more and more complex over and over and over again. And at Acquia, we've long believed in this concept of an open approach, essentially a way to solve that problem of silos to ensure all the things you buy and all the things you build are connected in terms of content and data. It's not something that means ripping and replacing everything, and it's not something that just means open source. We've worked with and been a part of the Drupal community for a very long time. We're the number one contributor, to Drupal, and we believe in open source technology, but it's also about open APIs, so you can connect with multiple different systems and making sure that you can connect to not only just these new technologies or new platforms, but also homegrown systems, point of sale systems, things that aren't traditionally integrated. It means making sure that you have an open architecture so you can build applications in a way that they can actually be used as part of your holistic stack, and really kind of spreading the concept of shareability and collaboration and really bringing that across not just your IT team for an open source project, but really across marketing teams, across data teams, and then even beyond that, I think across the broader organization as well. And the reason we do this is because the way we're engaging today and the way we're going to be engaging tomorrow is very, very different. And we've moved a little bit from this traditional structured journey. We would all go into rooms and we would map out we'd have journey maps for customer X and then for customer Y and for profile here and there. But what we're starting to see is that the movement towards a quote unquote self-guided customer journey, and that's kind of the naming that we've seen and put out and talked to some analysts about it. And it's really, I need what I need when I need it. I'm going to engage on the channel of my choice based on the time of day, and I need to be able to receive the experience that I want. And this is kind of that holy grail, and I have kind of a generic example of it up here, really being able to connect on multiple different touch points, making sure that you always have an experience that's personalized, it's relevant. And what I always think is funny is no one has a great online experience, or actually maybe I might, or folks online might, but for the most part, consumers don't have a good online experience and say things like, wow, that was such an amazing connected journey. Like, what a great customer experience that was, right? Instead, it's something that you almost have a fundamental expectation for. It's when it's a broken journey, it's an irrelevant experience, it's something that seems like spam from the brand that traditionally you've had some allegiance to or loyalty towards, that you really realize that the experience you're getting is not up to snuff. So there's kind of three areas that we've really heard. This is from our customer demand and our customer focus and the efforts that they're putting behind, which is around like, here are the things that we need to do in this kind of very complex world around digital experience with lots of different providers and vendors, and then all these new requirements for being digital first. So I'm happy, again, if people want to chat through some things or ask questions, I'm happy to. But if not, I'll kind of just move into the three things and then the use cases that support them. Everyone's busy eating their imaginary pizza, which is cool with me. I'll grab some afterwards. So the one thing we're hearing is we move too slow. We just need to move faster. We need to do things faster. It's a lot of this is around creating content, and I need to create content faster. I'm creating all this content multiple different times and then trying to roll it out on multiple different channels and pages. And then at the same time, I need to spin up a microsite. I need to add a kind of a new component or new element to a page. And we're getting these maintenance requests that can sometimes take a good amount of time to actually solve for. We're not moving quickly and aligned as an organization. We need to create content faster, and we need to build sites faster. And I love this example from Schwann's. It's really that we're seeing a requirement for more digital agility than we've ever had. And Schwann's is a great example of this. For those of you who don't know them, I think they're up in the Midwest, and I'm not sure I think it's Wisconsin. So if anyone knows, you can certainly correct me, but I'm pretty sure I got that one right. And really for them, they do lots of home delivery. So not everyone was in a fortunate position when we've started to see this fundamental shift and change, but for their organization, they got tons of new customers, new prospects, new clients. And in order to kind of roll out this new experience, they rely on hundreds of different data feeds. They roll up into all these different reports across their business. And for them, they actually needed to essentially overnight change their customer engagement strategy, change their delivery routes, create new content. They were working with new brands to bring their experience, like their products that are on their site. And they have I think it's like Mr. Tony's. They have these very well-known, kind of maybe not the healthiest options that are frozen foods, but they also have their whole new line, or not super new, but their line of kind of their homey kind of full family meals, and then also their health line options. So they were getting all this traffic, all these customers. They needed to create all this different content experience to respond, and they needed to do so super, super quickly, even to changing how they segment their users, even actually changing the way that their delivery routes were. So they had this massive challenge around being able to do that, and they were able to do so successfully. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's some other kind of super relevant examples to this group. And the city of Boston is a really good example of when we started to see the impact and effects of coronavirus, and seeing that the city of Boston, which we've been working with for a long time, they essentially needed to build a new centralized homepage. It was like an expanded version of a microsite, so that because they were the primary way at that time, and really even still, where individuals are getting the most up-to-date information about where to get tested, reopening plans, hosting the different live press conferences from the mayor to kind of provide these up-to-the-minute updates and really create all this kind of crucial information. And they were actually able to do so with some of the tools that they used, just 2 or 3 days to actually build out this new site, roll it out, and actually be able to get that immediately to their customers, which I thought was a pretty cool example. Another example of just building content, creating sites really quickly is UCSF. They have a entirely kind of specific coronavirus information page and set of information for all their different, not only the people who attend the school and the university, but they have lots of professors that are putting together articles, and they're putting together different research, and they have some information on infection control. So again, we're talking about in less than a week, having to spin out these traditionally very challenging new sites and experiences and roll them out to essentially a particularly large populace. And they're seeing record traffic. Same thing with City of Boston, because these are areas that people have a lot of trust and confidence in terms of the information that's being provided to them. So yes, we have to move fast. We have to create content quickly. We have to roll out new sites quickly. We have to pivot our business really quickly. We have to be super agile. And that is something that we hear. I hear this honestly probably every single conversation I have with prospects or customers is we need to move faster. But a lot of what we hear too is we need to be smarter, which is we collect all this data. We spend a lot of budget on all these different tools to collect this information. yet I really just don't feel like I have the information. I don't feel like I have the insight into my different customer bases. I don't feel like I feel confident in a campaign that I can build and create and deliver what I believe would be a differentiated experience. And this is something we hear very, very often. And I think what's really interesting around data is that we see a lot of numbers and things around people feeling like, I don't want to give up my data. And I think this is certainly fundamentally true. We've seen a lot of challenges around data accessibility, and we've seen, of course, a lot of increase around compliance. And I think, as we should, making sure that we're protecting the different data and information that we collect online. But at the same time, there's kind of this, I think about it as like a data agreement maybe, or data exchange, which is, if you can provide me with a really good, specifically a very good and convenient experience, I'm willing to provide some information to you. I think one of the best examples of this is Starbucks, right? They have this app, and instead of going in and waiting in the long lines in the morning, you can essentially order from the app specifically and essentially cut the line. You have this whole new section. They're providing this massive amount of convenience. But in doing so, they are collecting a ton of information about you. They have information about how you pay, which is directly, your credit card is directly connected to your app if you're executing in that way. They have all the past orders that you've purchased. They have your name. They have lots of other information about where you may live. So they're collecting this massive amount of data. And yes, people say, I don't want anyone to collect my data. But if the value is there, then people are much more willing to actually do so. And we're not just collecting data and trying to do this because we think it's a good idea. It's because consumers want this, right? They want brands to know, this is the channel to reach me on. This is the time to communicate with me. This is when I want X, Y, Z. And that's something that they find really valuable. But the problem is, it's really hard to actually get that single view of data. This is actually from a customer of ours, and this is their before state. They're like, here's what's going on right now. We have all of these disconnected systems that really kind of somewhat are connected in one or two ways, but not holistically, and we don't really understand what's going on with our customers. So we have their POS, their point of sale, and their inventory systems up here in one place, and that's connected to a BI platform. They can see some things there. E-commerce is actually not connected directly to the point of sale system, but that's also something that you get insight from the BI tool. And then part of that goes out to the direct mail, but then they have all these digital ad campaigns that are happening on the side, moving some identity data that they have that's totally not connected to the BI tools or the point of sale system. They have website and web personalization, which they're doing, again, entirely in a vacuum. And then they have their call center, which lots of individuals are using, but it's entirely isolated and separated from all these. So you can see how challenging it is to actually get and see that single view of customer. And it's very, very hard to do, getting that insight. And we work with customers on implementing what's a customer data platform to gain some of those insights. And I'll talk through why that's valuable to brands in a moment. But what I think is interesting is the what. So because of this, because we don't have that single customer view, because we don't really understand our customers, there are things that we can do, right? We can send communications to multiple different channels. That's easier to do than gaining a single view of customer. So a lot of what happens is marketing teams, they just do more. So they will send more emails. If they need a 1% conversion rate, they need to get their attendance up for an event. It's send more, send more, send more. Maybe they're going to roll out a new social campaign. Maybe they're buying more digital ads, but it's all about activation first. And the reason you do activation first is because you don't really know which activities are going to move the needle. So you kind of just do them all. But what we believe at Acquia, and this is specific to the way we're able to collect and stitch together and profile data, is that the best way to do this, the best way to fundamentally solve that problem is to do the inverse and have a data first approach. And this might take a little bit more time to actually pull together to gain that view. But once you do so, you're actually going to be able to cut through all this digital noise and content that we're seeing and experience on a day-to-day basis. So having that unified customer data is going to allow you to send fewer communications, better communications, ones that will cut through the noise and be targeted and personalized. So a couple examples of that is Lululemon. They've been working with us since about 2016, and they had a tremendously disconnected business. That it was all they have all these different stores, these online businesses, and they're like, we have a great product, people really like it, but we're not able to, in a digital way, really bring any of what we're seeing in store. We can't bring that to digital, and we can't bring digital to in store, and we don't really know who our customers are. We don't know how to treat them and communicate with them. And what they were able to do is they did use a customer data platform here and really pull this in. So they were able to dedupe and stitch all these different profiles and information. But most importantly for them, they were able to take in-store activities and unify them with online activities. So they could see the people who only shopped and communicated online, the ones who were most likely to buy from an email, the people who only purchased and did things in store and had never gone so online, the folks who would shop online, but then in stores, they would actually do a lot of their buying, or there were folks who would only wait for when there was a sale or around a seasonal shopping event and try to, that would be when they would engage. So they have all these really valuable segments, and from doing so, they were able to really drive some great results. And this is while they were starting to grow a little bit, but they had a 50% increase in their visits to their website, and they had lots more participation in their events. But really for them, I mean, through this implementation and after about, I think it was a year and a half or so, 15% revenue increase on the bottom line just through the activities that they were able to drive, which is really fantastic. But recently, what they had to do was say to run digital only activities and campaigns, and they needed ways to effectively communicate with all these different groups. So for them, it was, all right, so I know the people who always purchase online maybe don't need a compelling offer, but the people who have never purchased from me online would require a very different type of communication and insight and interest. And that was something that was really helped them navigate through this difficult time for retail in general. Also, which I thought was really cool, they turned all of their locations into shipping centers because they weren't able to manage and handle all the shipping and requirements, and they were seeing massive backups. They actually turned their specific locations into shipping centers, which doesn't necessarily have that much to do with the digital transformation piece of it, but it's just a really cool way of an organization pivoting and moving through.
Quick question.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Please.
Quick question. This is from online. CDP is very trendy. Does Acquia have a product, or are you helping customers build custom solutions?
Yeah, so we actually have a specific product, so I can give a little bit of insight into that. So this is actually, so it came through an acquisition that we did last year, a company called Agile One, who was the #1 in terms of enterprise CDP capabilities, specifically for machine learning and for analytics. So we have a product. It is a product that organizations invest in and buy. Lululemon is one of the customers of Acquia's CDP. David's Tea is one of those customers as well. We have dozens of great examples. Moose Jaw is another great example. I think I'll talk through them in just a moment. So there is a specific product that we have as well. But what's really exciting for us is that in the past several months, we've actually built out a fully integrated marketing cloud based on some of the acquisitions that we've made. So we had personalization solutions. We've acquired a CDP. We acquired an open marketing automation solution. And now at the back end, all of those things are fully integrated with the CDP data at the core. So we're actually able to not only to understand, but do that activation. And those things come integrated out of the box, which is, kudos to the team who actually hit the ground running on those things, because I think we all know examples of acquisitions that have taken place and the integrations didn't happen maybe at all, or only in a very demo friendly way, for example, where it wasn't necessarily real. So a lot of exciting stuff on the marketing cloud and marketing front from Acquia, which is cool because we've always come from an IT type of space, and now we're seeing all these amazing stories. Cool. So yeah, and any other questions about our platform? I really wanted to try to focus on the use cases, and I'm happy to tie them back to platform components, and we can do some education part on that. But like, you can see all the things we have, but I wanted to share was like the success stories and what's important now to pivot and to figure out how you can communicate better with customers in digital first, digital only world, transform more quickly. So David's Tea is another example here. Retail, as I said, is having some pretty significant challenges. I mean, this is not a very good time for many businesses, but when you have to close your stores, that's pretty difficult to work with. And one of the things they've been really focused on is loyalty programs. And they have all this information about people who have purchased, whether it be online or whether it be in store. And they were more focused on, all right, so acquiring new customers would be great, but people aren't going to go grab a salad and pop into David's Tea when they have a couple of minutes before they end up, doing some additional shopping. What's going to happen instead is, how do we engage better with our existing customers, people who have invested in us before, bought from us before, maybe been members of a loyalty program in some way. So through that CDP information, they were able to really have those single view of customers. They were able to do some propensity modeling, which I can talk about from an algorithmic perspective as well. But really, they were able to say, all right, so who are the people who are still our most loyal customers? What are their behaviors? What are they doing? But also, who are the ones we haven't heard from in a long time? And what's their likelihood or propensity to engage online? That's where they focused a lot of their efforts, and they saw the best one to me is 47% boost in reactivated customers. Like that is a dream conversion number in any way, shape, or form. If you're able to think about reactivating customers in any type of loyalty based way, there's lots of great stats here, and I'm happy to share or show these slides. But revenue is of course critical, but when you think and focus on loyalty, it's really how do you cut through the noise and provide those types of experiences. So the last kind of big three, right? The first is we need to move faster, create content, spin up sites more quickly. We need to be smarter. We need to understand our customers better. And the last one is we need to be personal, and we need to have the ability to do so everywhere. We can talk a lot about personalization. I've worked in the personalization space for several years, and we've seen a lot of growth, but there's still a lot of growing to do and some challenges there. But this is something that I always think is interesting, because personalization is not something that comes because your CEO or your CMO wants to do personalization. I feel like sometimes that might be how it feels for teams and for organizations, but the reality is people actually want personalized experiences. They're more likely to make purchases, and they're more likely to engage with organizations who can offer those types of personalized experiences. So it's not just about, we want to do this because it's cool and trendy. It's because that's what the consumers, that's what the customers actually desire at the end result of it. And I really like this. This is a cool example. So we were talking earlier a little bit about cooking. I've been doing a little bit of cooking myself. I have not gotten into baking, but many people are. It is like the thing, and people are. I literally heard several people who have expressed zero interest in food talk about the different things that they've baked, and I'm looking around like, this is something else. I would never have expected this. Just the different hobbies and things that people have been getting into. But King Arthur Flour, premium brand, specifically around flour. They just went through a really cool rebrand. They're a 230-year-old company. They have kind of the best product in the biz, but for them, it was, all right, so the online engagement is a really big part of this. And fortunately, unlike some businesses, they were in a really good spot to kind of capitalize on some of the challenges that we've seen in the marketplace today. So for them, it was, they had a massive increase in their sales, yes, but also their web traffic. So first of all, they needed to stay up. And that was, when you have 3x traffic, 1 million visits on a single day or even within a single hour, and you're not traditionally architected for that, you really need to make sure that you're up. And there's one specific, like there's a one of their individual recipes that they churned out, 1.5 million page views since, in just a couple months. So it's really crazy things from a demand perspective. But the next piece is being personal and being personalized based on that. So what are the different things that organizations are doing to be able to connect and deliver really good experiences? For them, it's been all about recipes for sourdough, recipes for muffins, recipes for you name the different type and variety of bread. And they created all these different recipes, and they're figuring out exactly how to not only stay up and stay relevant and stay on, but to be able to personalize these different recipes based on what types of flour people have purchased and what content that they've engaged with in the past. And I like this example because I think it's very, very, interesting in terms of a digital pivot and a move and a requirement, but also kind of a new re-energized focus on delivering personalized experiences everywhere. But I just talked about a lot of big brands and a lot of big organizations. So I kind of wanted to close the case study part of this, and I'll pop up our platform in the way that looks in just a moment. But I kind of wanted to close this by thinking about an organization who is not a Lululemon and who is not in a very traditional spot. And this is a financial services consulting firm, and they were, in their own words, a little bit behind the game when it came to engagement online. They work with lots of different clients, and they are trying to figure out how to engage more successfully with them digitally. They have to do some cultural changes, and they're going through that right now to actually see and invest in the value of digital. But one of the things that's cool about this kind of open approach, we talked about Acquia, lots of flexible different tools, is that you can do pilot programs. You can do proof of concepts with us, and we are happy to do those types of things. They worked with us and a partner in this instance to really understand what their requirements were. They used something called Acquia's Campaign Studio, which is how we create different multi-channel campaigns. And they saw amazing results. And they didn't do that much. So they didn't have to do all these complex multi-channel campaigns. They didn't have to connect their voice with a wearable and web and something that was on an app, right? Really what they were able to do is do a couple simple campaigns that were automated, that were slightly personalized, not one-to-one, but generally had some level of personalization attached or integrated in them, and rolling out the email communications in an automated multi-touch fashion based on nurture components, and then just simple newsletters that they started to roll out to different teams and groups that were personalized. And based on this, the results that you can see in these industries that are getting to that investment around digital transformation, starting to focus on that, they probably have the best opportunity to differentiate. Some of these brands, they have to do it because their competitors are doing it. But if you're able to get to market on this somewhat quickly, you're going to be able to, this is an amazing example, just 2 months. And in this example, their open rate became 2x the industry norm. Their click rate became nearly 10x the industry norm. And the completion rate, the form completion rate based on those clicks became, again, 10 plus X more than industry norm. And this is just for doing a 2-month pilot with simple campaigns. And the reason I wanted to close with this one is because it's not all about those big brands doing those amazing things because the competition is super fierce. It's also about kind of leaner organizations who aren't digital, embracing that, not only seeing the power of it, but also seeing the results. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, just so that we can, I'm happy to take any specific questions, but I can throw up for if folks maybe have specific questions about our platform. I'm happy to kind of talk through some of those as well. I can talk really in any, I can go a lot of different ways in the next couple minutes. So I'm happy to kind of just do what makes sense for the folks on the line.
Andrew, I see you asked a question. You want to ask it here?
Yeah, I think actually I asked that before you dove into the financial services example, because I think my question was if you had seen some similar trends in the B2B space. I feel like we see a lot of these examples in B2C, but you beat me to that.
Yeah, no, but it's actually a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up. So I think one of the things we see is I think B2C in some ways somewhat drives B2B, and they can be a little not in a negative way, but there's slight lag maybe on like in terms of the investment in certain types of technologies and capabilities, which is totally understandable and reasonable. But we actually do a lot of work with B2B, and we do a lot of work with B2B across all those different fronts. So I think we're seeing a lot more focus on data, specifically how it can enhance ABM programs. In terms of content creation, I think I see a stat where it's like 60, or maybe I think it was around 50% of research is done before contact with a salesperson. So the requirement for B2B to start doing this and really start investing there is very significant. So I'm glad you brought that up, because these are, and for some reason, when folks want to do public case studies, they really want to have impressive, fancy numbers. I guess I get it. But in a lot of ways, it's really about starting and even seeing just a couple results. So we have a whole B2B practice that we can work through, and I have tons of examples there as well. And I just wanted to show you some updates. Like that's for those of you who, I don't know, I didn't know the familiarity of Acquia. For some of the folks online, I'm happy to give a little more history there. But let's just say that our platform looks very different than it did just a couple years ago. So let's see, I see some other questions too.
You guys, I know you guys acquired Mautic a little while back. Is that Campaign Studio, or is that still a separate product?
Or you just, I think you were laying me up, because I was going to go there, but I'm glad you asked. So one of the things we wanted to do, so there's kind of a couple components. We just launched our digital experience, or relaunched our digital experience platform. And we had a lot of tools that we had built ourselves. We had a lot of things that we had made kind of quasi acquisitions and then added pieces to that. And then last year, we had 3 acquisitions. We acquired a company called Cohesion. That is now what you can see here is Aquia Site Studio. We acquired a company called Mautic, which actually has 2 different components to it. It actually is our Campaign Studio and Campaign Factory. There's something called Maestro that's essentially a distributed version of Mautic, great for organizations that operate in different regions or have lots of different brands. And Agile One is what we've renamed to our Acquia customer data platform. And this really was based on the kind of renaming and relaunch is based on, 1, integrations between the products, so they come together out of the box. But 2 is that when you start to have a lot of things, having one product called Lift and one product called Mautic and one product called Maestro, one product called Agile One, and then one product called Cohesion with Drupal and Cloud and Site Factory, Content Hub, Security, all of a sudden it's just like, if you're a user, if you're a buyer, if you're a user, or even if you're an analyst, or if you're a person who's just trying to understand what the whole deal is with DXP and what the platform looks like, the best thing you can do is call things what they are. So yes, we needed to roll out all these integrations and have some new kind of way we structured things. And that was really important. But it's also, how do we be very prescriptive about what the products we have actually do, so that folks who haven't known us for that long, as we start to get involved in different teams, different brands, different orgs, can kind of start to really make sense of something that could be really complex. So good call out there. Thank you for laying that one out. I saw a question on CDP. Let me so I think we're saying chief digital officers and chief officers of transformation. Is that like COTS, or was it another? You can jump in there. But so essentially,
no, I'm saying commercial off the shelf. Sorry.
Oh, commercial off the shelf. Okay, wait. Okay, a commercial CDO. I misread.
CDP. Sorry, that was a typo. A commercial CDP versus a homegrown.
Personas here. Yeah, no, totally. All right, I'm with you. Okay. So we talked to a lot of chief digital officers and chief officers of transformation or chief transformation officers. So my head was in a very specific place. So this is actually an awesome point. Let me actually see. Hold on. I can talk a little bit about the customization here, because this is super important. So there's a couple different types of quote unquote CDPs, and a lot of them are not very flexible and they're not very customizable. So what they would require organizations to do is to say, hey, here's the way we ingest data. Here's the way we have naming structures. Here's the way we do all these different things. And you're going to have to adjust your business to that. And that is exactly the pain that you're talking about. They have all these unique systems, but even like for certain ones, like, so Lululemon's a great example. But again, just because they have all the way that they name their individual products in their system is different than any other traditional CDP could meet. But one of the things that attracted us to Agile One, now Acquia CDP, so much is this concept of its customizability and flexibility. So you can add in fully custom rules. You can integrate. We have some of them that are sitting on Looker and Snowflake databases. We have some of them that are integrating with these out-of-the-box models. You can also do individualized specific connectors. But the whole point of Agile One and why it makes it very attractive, specifically because we talk a lot about open, not just for open source, but how do you, as a business, when you invest in digital transformation, not have to re-architect and change the way you fundamentally do business day to day to use a tool and technology? It actually should be the inverse. And that's something that Agile One does best in the business. So a lot of the biggest and most impactful deals and customers that we have there are ones that have the most customized requirements, because traditionally other brands, other organizations, they just can't do that. So we win a lot on reporting, and we'll win a lot on the customizability. So if we have all these custom systems, these homegrown systems, or even just things like naming or data ingestion requirements, that's something that Agile One is best in the business for. And I have lots of content on that. I have some examples on that too. So, but I know we're at time, so I'm happy to follow up with you. There's some really cool use cases there. Traditionally, though, you're right. It's like, yeah, we can do it, and they're like, you're gonna have to change everything in order to put this in. So I'm not trying to bash the competition too much, but
yeah, well, I won't say what competition I'm talking about, but I've had clients ask, well, the off-the-shelf system we looked at costs a lot. What would it cost to implement something custom? And
yep. Yep. To me, though, I kind of think that there's this best of both worlds in the middle, where you can have some things that are custom, but some things that are bought, or like you can customize what you bought. But cost is obviously a big barrier. Anytime we're thinking about marketing, anytime we're thinking about, any large scale technology buy. I think for something like a CDP, we do see a good amount of attempted builds. I haven't seen that. I mean, if you get in there with a really, really strong partner with a big machine learning data science team, it's certainly possible. The problem is that it just starts to sit within a very specific team and requirement, where like not everyone can access the information, not everyone can look at the different reports, they can't see the analytics. The whole point of a CDP is supposed to be having a single view of customer that's pervasive across your organization. But if people actually can't access that, because it requires this custom IT and partner involvement and machine learning team with the data science team to bring some of those insights back to you every time, and it's manual, then it doesn't really help in the long run. But we've seen that that is not I'm not saying it's a bad way to do it. I just think that there's kind of like a sweet spot there, which is some level of out-of-the-box tooling that allows for customizability based on business requirements.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was just surprised when the client asked that question, because I shudder when a client wants to build their own of anything. But
yeah,
I'd get your views on that.
You probably should. I mean, I guess I feel like, yeah, I get why, right? Like, if you're a developer, if you're an IT person, you want to, like, it's in your nature to desire to build. So I get it. But it's super complex, and I would argue that it actually costs way more in the long run, period. I mean, end of story. But that's my take, and I'm not afraid to be candid with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm a lifelong developer, and there are definitely products out there that it's faster and easier to just buy it and spend the time customizing and integrating it than building it from scratch.
Right.
No reason.
Yeah, exactly. Certain tech you want to build though. That I get. I mean, I'm not anti.
Yeah.
I just think for certain functionality, like you could build your own CMS right now. I just don't know why you would do that.
Exactly.
Could though, if you want
You could.
you could build your own CRM too. Like that sounds. I just don't know. Like the cost benefit to your organization is something that I have a hard time wrapping my head around. But I think because CDP is a little bit newer, maybe folks will still try to take a crack at it at their own. Where in things that are slightly more mature, I don't want to say commoditized, but where there's lots of different options, you can do all your competitive research like a CMS or a CRM. They're like, all right, man, I guess, all right, we'll buy this one, but now the data one we're going to do ourselves, and then it's kind of like a back and forth of marketing versus IT. So.
Right. Awesome. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah, of course.
That was fantastic. Cool. And again, this has been recorded. We'll be sharing this in our feeds as soon as it's up on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Cool. One final slide we can talk through real quick. I just wanted to open this up to the community here. Anybody who's on the line. Anything else you want to give a call out? Any other events? Obviously, mostly virtual, but anything that you would like to share with the broader community here as to what's going on around Boston or anything else. And if you want to looking for work or looking to hire, feel free to share that.
Yeah, this is Puneet Lamba. I run the Adobe practice at Tech Systems Digital. We might be looking to hire data scientists who've worked with a product called Celebrum, or just have general data science capabilities. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Great. Cool. Okay, cool. And so that's it. Thank you all very much for joining. If you have any feedback, comments, want to speak, want to provide topic ideas, want to do whatever, feel free to reach out to me. There's my contact info. Join our group. And chances are, if you're here, you're already on the meetup. But we'll be using Meetup and the Twitter account to communicate as much as we can. Again, Eric, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. This was a great topic. And everyone else, enjoy the weather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.